It begins in complete silence. No engines. No distant roar of airplanes crossing the sky. No rumble of trucks on highways. No screech of subway trains beneath city streets. At first, most people do not notice anything unusual. The morning begins as it always does. Millions wake up, check their phones, pour coffee, and prepare for work. But when they step outside, something feels wrong. The streets are empty. Cars are gone. Not parked. Not stuck in traffic. Gone. Entire highways stretch across cities with nothing on them. Parking lots stand completely empty. Driveways where vehicles sat the night before now contain nothing but bare pavement. Within minutes, people start looking around in confusion. Where did everything go? The answer becomes clear quickly. All transportation has vanished. Cars, buses, trains, airplanes, ships, motorcycles, helicopters, cargo trucks. Every vehicle capable of transporting people or goods has disappeared from the planet. It is as if the entire concept of transportation simply stopped existing overnight. At first, many assume it must be a strange prank or a coordinated cyber attack. But that explanation collapses as the scale becomes obvious. Airports report something impossible. Every aircraft in the world is gone. Planes that were parked at gates only hours earlier have vanished from runways and hangars. More terrifying is the discovery that airplanes already in flight have disappeared too. Air traffic control screens go blank. Radar signals vanish. Across oceans and continents, hundreds of aircraft simply cease to exist. Ships are missing as well. Harbors that once held enormous cargo vessels now show empty water. The massive container ships that move nearly all global trade are gone. Tankers carrying oil across the oceans, fishing fleets, passenger ferries, all vanished. Rail networks report the same phenomenon. Subway tunnels stand empty. Freight trains are gone from tracks. High-speed rail systems that once connected entire countries are suddenly silent. Within hours, the realization spreads across the world. Humanity has lost every machine designed to move people or goods. At first, some people try to continue their daily routines. Workers attempt to walk to their offices. Students try to reach schools. But modern cities were never designed for a world without vehicles. Many people live dozens of kilometers from where they work. Highways that once carried thousands of cars every hour now become endless roads with people walking along them in confusion. Public transportation systems no longer exist. Subways cannot move. Buses are gone. Taxis have vanished. Entire commuting systems collapse instantly. The chaos becomes even worse in major cities. Millions of people attempt to move on foot at the same time. Crowds fill highways and streets normally meant only for vehicles. But even that is only the beginning of the crisis. Because transportation is not just about moving people. It is the bloodstream of civilization. Every city on Earth depends on constant deliveries. Food, water, medicine, fuel, clothing, electronics. Every product inside every store arrived there through transportation. And now that system is gone. Supermarkets begin noticing the problem within hours. The shelves still look full, but no new deliveries arrive. Normally, trucks replenish stores every night. Without trucks, there is no resupply. Managers begin calculating how long their inventory will last. For most stores, the answer is terrifying. 3 days. That is all the food most supermarkets carry at any given time. Cities do not store months of supplies. They depend on constant movement of goods. The moment transportation disappears, the countdown begins. Meanwhile, hospitals face a different emergency. Medical supply chains rely on aircraft and trucks to deliver equipment, blood, and medicine. Without transport, hospitals cannot receive new supplies. Ambulances are gone. Emergency responders can no longer reach patients quickly. Doctors and nurses begin preparing for a future where every medical emergency must be handled locally. But the deeper consequences appear in places most people never think about. Factories stop immediately. Modern manufacturing relies on materials arriving from different parts of the world. Microchips from Taiwan, rare minerals from Africa, steel from Asia, oil from the Middle East. Without ships and cargo planes, those materials cannot move. Assembly lines shut down. Production stops across entire industries. Even power generation begins facing problems. Power plants require regular deliveries of fuel. Coal plants depend on trains carrying enormous loads of coal. Gas plants depend on tanker shipments and pipelines supported by maintenance vehicles. Within days, energy systems begin faltering. Electricity becomes unstable in some regions. Blackouts spread across cities. Meanwhile, something strange happens to the sky. For the first time in decades, it becomes completely quiet. No airplane trails cross the horizon. No helicopters hover over cities. The sky feels empty. For people living near airports, the silence is almost shocking. Birds begin filling the airspace where jets once dominated. Nature seems to expand into the space humanity once controlled. But while the skies grow quiet, the ground becomes chaotic. Panic begins spreading as people realize the scale of the disaster. Without trucks, food cannot reach cities. Without ships, countries cannot import supplies. Without trains, entire regions become isolated. Global trade, the system that connected every continent, collapses in a single day. Stock markets close almost immediately. Companies understand that modern economics depends entirely on logistics. Without transportation, the global economy simply cannot function. Governments attempt emergency measures. They encourage people to stay calm. They promise solutions. But even governments rely on transportation to move resources. Military bases discover that their aircraft, tanks, and vehicles have vanished as well. The world's most powerful armies suddenly find themselves unable to move beyond walking distance. The modern world, built on speed and mobility, slows to the pace of human footsteps. Within the first week, cities begin experiencing the most dramatic change. Food supplies run low. Crowds gather outside supermarkets searching for remaining products. Without trucks to restock shelves, the stores grow emptier every hour. Farmers still grow food, but farms are often hundreds of kilometers from the cities that need it. Without trucks or trains, transporting that food becomes nearly impossible. And suddenly, humanity realizes something it rarely considered before. Civilization is not defined by buildings or technology. It is defined by movement. Everything humans built depends on the ability to move resources from one place to another. Without that movement, the world begins shrinking. Countries become isolated. Cities become vulnerable. Communities must rely only on what exists within walking distance. And as the first week without transportation comes to an end, a terrifying question begins appearing everywhere. If humanity cannot move, how will civilization survive? The first week without transportation changes everything. At first, people believed the disappearance of vehicles would simply make life inconvenient. They imagined longer commutes, empty roads, and quiet airports. But the reality becomes far more severe, because modern civilization does not just use transportation. It depends on it. Within days, supermarkets in major cities become nearly empty. Shelves that once held fresh fruit, vegetables, bread, and packaged foods now display only scattered products that no one wanted to buy earlier. Managers post signs explaining the situation. No deliveries are coming. Farmers still harvest crops, but those crops remain in fields hundreds of kilometers away. Without trucks, trains, or cargo ships, food cannot reach the cities where most humans live. The global food system begins collapsing almost immediately. In rural regions, life continues with fewer disruptions. Farms already produce food locally. Small communities adapt by sharing resources and organizing distribution by hand. But cities face a different reality. Modern megacities were never designed to feed themselves. Places like Tokyo, New York, London, and Sao Paulo depend on massive networks of trucks delivering food every single day. Without those networks, the clock begins ticking. Within 2 weeks, many cities experience the first signs of hunger. Restaurants close first. They relied on daily deliveries of ingredients. Then grocery stores shut down. Without inventory, there is nothing left to sell. Governments attempt emergency solutions. Some cities organize walking convoys, groups of volunteers traveling long distances on foot to transport food from nearby farms. But even the strongest person can carry only a small amount. What a single truck once delivered in one trip would now require thousands of people walking for days. The scale of the problem becomes overwhelming. Meanwhile, hospitals face a growing crisis of their own. Medical supply chains had depended on aircraft, trucks, and cargo ships. Without those systems, hospitals cannot receive new medications, surgical equipment, or oxygen tanks. Even something as simple as sterile gloves becomes scarce. Doctors begin rationing supplies. Only the most critical patients receive treatment. The world's advanced healthcare systems slowly begin reverting to something closer to emergency field medicine. At the same time, another problem emerges: waste. Modern cities generate enormous amounts of garbage every day. Normally, trucks collect and transport it to landfills or recycling facilities. Now those trucks are gone. Trash begins accumulating in streets and alleys. Within weeks, sanitation becomes a major public health concern. Without transportation, even basic city maintenance becomes impossible. Electricity soon becomes unstable as well. Power plants require constant maintenance and fuel deliveries. Technicians once used vehicles to reach remote infrastructure, transmission towers, substations, and pipelines. Now those systems fail slowly as small problems go unrepaired. In some regions, electrical grids shut down entirely. Cities that once glowed with light become dark at night. The modern world begins fading. Meanwhile, the global economy completely collapses. International trade disappears overnight. Factories close because raw materials cannot arrive. Oil refineries stop operating because crude shipments have vanished. Construction projects halt because building materials cannot reach work sites. Stock markets remain closed because there is nothing left to trade. The entire system of globalized production, the idea that materials could travel across continents in hours or days, simply stops existing. Countries begin realizing something profound. They are no longer connected. For centuries, oceans were highways for global trade. Now they are barriers again. Ships once crossed them carrying millions of tons of cargo. Without ships, oceans become vast, empty spaces separating nations. Air travel once connected continents in hours. Without airplanes, crossing an ocean becomes almost impossible. Humanity suddenly finds itself living in isolated regions again. The world grows smaller, but while cities struggle, the natural world begins changing in unexpected ways. Highways that once roared with traffic grow quiet. Animals cautiously begin returning to spaces long dominated by humans. Deer walk through abandoned parking lots. Birds nest on silent bridges. Rivers once polluted by shipping activity grow clearer. Without constant industrial transport, the planet begins healing in subtle ways. Yet for humans, adaptation remains difficult. Over time, communities begin reorganizing around local resources. Cities shrink as people move closer to farmland. Urban populations gradually disperse into smaller settlements where food can be grown nearby. Human society slowly shifts from global networks to local ecosystems. The bicycle becomes one of the most valuable inventions in history, if simple versions still exist. Even without engines, mechanical transport powered by human effort becomes essential. People begin rebuilding simple carts, wagons, and hand-pulled vehicles. Animals return as important partners in transportation. Horses, donkeys, and oxen once again pull goods between villages and towns. Humanity rediscovers technologies that existed long before engines. Roads remain, but instead of cars speeding across them, they carry caravans of people walking slowly from one settlement to another. Travel becomes rare and meaningful. A journey that once took hours may now take weeks. But something else changes too. People begin thinking differently about distance. In the old world, someone could eat fruit grown on another continent without thinking about it. Now every meal comes from nearby land. Communities grow more connected to their environment. Farmers become the most respected members of society. Food production becomes humanity's central priority. Cities redesign themselves around agriculture. Parks transform into farmland. Rooftops grow vegetables. Empty office buildings become storage for harvested crops. The human world slowly reorganizes around survival rather than convenience. And over time, a new kind of civilization begins emerging. Smaller, slower, but more local. Instead of global networks linking billions of people, communities focus on self-sufficiency. People know where their food comes from. They know the farmers who grow it. They understand the land that supports them. The world becomes quieter. No roaring engines. No aircraft crossing the sky. No cargo ships on the horizon. Humanity lives at the pace of footsteps again. And as decades pass, historians look back at the moment transportation disappeared as the day modern civilization ended. But they also recognize something unexpected. It was not the end of humanity. It was simply the end of speed. Because without transportation, the world did not stop. It just learned how to move differently.